Do you dream of studying at a world-class university with an exciting and adventurous life experience? That is what awaits you at SLTC in the paradise island of Sri Lanka. Located in the lush suburbs of the city, a 35-acre university of serene greenery, the only state-owned, private sector and corporate-backed university in Sri Lanka. With state-of-the-art accommodation options, feel the warmth of a home away from home. Immerse in the adventure you're looking for at the world's top tourist destination of excitement, beauty, and the hub of activity, Sri Lanka. With exceptional teaching, a multitude of study options, plenty of pathways to choose from, a host of international affiliations to back them up, as well as the opportunity to explore your creativity, sports, gym facilities, and natural surroundings. Step into an experience of a lifetime, connecting with the best of the best. Welcome to your Lifetime Experience University.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you're live with Sri Lanka Technological Campus, or we call it the SLTC Research University, coming to you live from Paduka campus premises and the city campus that is linked to Space City Maradana. So once again, we warmly welcome all the participants, the public, and the live audiences that have been connected via our live platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and other platforms that we are right now live to you. So this is the second episode of SLTC Insider, right? And the Insider theme today, Sri Lanka Can, right? Provide answers and building strategic business resilience in a catastrophe. If I give you a little brief on this, our dear nation is now on a totally new track to come out of the troubled waters. Every time when our country faces a difficulty, we are famous to bounce back. Revival is the strategy and need to see deeply as to what are the key roles of certain major sectors that keeps the economy growing. Major income lines, tourism, the corporate sector survival framework, and the role of small, medium entrepreneurs sector are main areas to be looked at as the growth engines. Today, we dive deep with three industry maestros to see how they map vital suggestions list to be presented to the relevant authorities on set of Sri Lanka Can, with the perspective of provide answers and building strategic business resilience in a catastrophe. Mind you, SLTC Insider is powered by none other than SLTC Business School, the vibrant business school of SLTC. The objective of SLTC Insider is, this webinar is, like I said, powered by the business school, discuss a deeper point or deeper points and vital facts in the industry to provide solutions. Sri Lanka Technological Campus Business School act as a solution provider. Therefore, through that, we need to achieve the industry connect with the professionals like what you see here as the eminent panel, and to be spearheading the leadership of solution orientation. So what's the point of difference of Insider and the other webinars? Well, the point of difference is SLTC Insider is that we have a professionally mapped post-webinar activities which will be done in collaboration with the eminent panel. So what are these post-webinar activities? Soon after this webinar is over, dear ladies and gentlemen, we will be mapping out a policy paper subjected to the discussion that is going to take in few minutes, and then that policy paper will be ready to present it to relevant authorities that have been agreed by the panel. Not only that, there'll be a podcast series will be recorded soon after this webinar, and it will be put to our website. You can log on to SLTC INSIDER website and you can see the podcasts. And also, we will have SLTC magazine, which covers the entire gamut of what we have discussed here, and also this magazine being contributed by academics of the campus, and there'll be various articles that will be go on and it will be presented to the public. So this is the post-webinar activities where our point of difference is actually. So with that, let me welcome the speakers, and I'm going to introduce them one by one, and it's going to be a bit of a long procedure because we have power-packed panel to take Sri Lanka Can topic. So today the keynote speaker is Deshamanya Dr. Rohantha Attukorala, a respected marketing professional in Sri Lanka with 17 years experience working for top multinationals like Unilever's Reckitt Benckiser and Diversify Lever in brand marketing, sales management, and as the country head Sri Lanka and Maldives. He twice won the Marketing Achiever Award by the Chartered Institute of Marketing, that's CIM. Dr. Attukorala was the youngest chairman to be appointed to Sri Lanka Export Development Board. Then he went on to be appointed as the Sri Lankan Tourism, chairman of the Sri Lankan Tourism and the 30 billion rupee retail chain Lanka Can. Subsequently, the cabinet ministers of Sri Lanka appointed him as the Commissioner General for the World Expo 2015 in Milan. He was then picked up by the United Nations UNOPS to head business development Sri Lanka and Maldives for 5 years, where the best project was won by Sri Lanka. In 2019, he was awarded Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Pride of the Nation Award. Academically, a double degree marketing, MBA, and a doctorate in business administration. He is alumni of Harvard University. Dr. Attukorala is a multiple Paul Harris Fellow of Rotary International and twice been awarded the Exceptional Rotarian of the Year. Dr. Attukorala is the Regional President, CEO of the Microsoft-owned global artificial intelligence company ClueTrack for Sri Lanka, Maldives, and Pakistan. He is a board director of multiple private sector companies in Sri Lanka. We warmly welcome you, Sir Deshamanya Dr. Rohantha Attukorala, to this power-packed SLTC Insider. And today, there'll be two panelists. So let me introduce Dr. Dinesh Hamangoda, a versatile character. Let me read his profile to you for you all to get updated who's that Dr. Dinesh is. Dr. Dinesh is a well-experienced professional with more than 23 years experience in the field of sales, marketing, supply chain, and business development, general management, including stints in two leading multinational companies in Sri Lanka. He started his career in 1998 as a junior executive at Sampath Bank Treasury, and in 2001 he joined Unilever Sri Lanka as a management trainee. During his Unilever stint, he functioned as a sales manager, senior brand manager, business development manager, head of demand and business planning, head of marketing, Unilever Food Solutions Sri Lanka, Maldives. After covering 13-year spell at Unilever in FMCG, he joined Holcim Lanka as a marketing manager. Dr. Dinesh joined Navaloka Group as the CEO for East West Marketing Private Limited in January 2017 and achieved Slim Brand Excellence Award for Turkey brand in 2018. After successful 3 years at East West, Dr. Dinesh now is the General Manager Sales in Hema's Consumer Brands at the moment. During his 23-year corporate career, he has completed um, two foreign trips at Unilever Philippines and Unilever India, two foreign stints at Unilever Philippines and Unilever India. He is a past pupil of Nalanda College, Colombo. He obtained his doctorate from the University of Kelaniya in 2020 and holds a first-class BSc Honours degree from University of New Delhi under Indian Cultural Scholarship Scheme. He also an MBA for PIM and a professional banker with AIB qualification and fellow of Chartered Institute of Marketing UK FCIM. In addition, he is a lecturer, mentor, corporate trainer, specializing sales, motivational and leadership training. He is a permanent faculty member for marketing strategy for PIM alumni Senior Manager Development Program SMDP. Dr. Dinesh is a visiting lecturer for MBA, MSc, MBS, and EMBA programs in University of Colombo, University of Kelaniya, Cardiff Metropolitan University, and Edith Cowan University. Dr. Dinesh is a past president of PIM Alumni Association, president of DB Alumni of University of Kelaniya, and secretary of the Unilever Past Employees Association. Dr. Dinesh has participated in diverse leadership, marketing, sales, and strategy training programs through Unilever and holds him in more than 17 countries and panel member of Slim Effie's Award judging panel for the last 3 years. We warmly welcome you, sir, Dr. Dinesh Hamangoda, to this wonderful SLTC Insider. And our second panelist for today is Pumi Ranasinghe. Pumi Ranasinghe, well, if I look at the credentials, she completed Entrepreneurship 101 offered by edX, completed Entrepreneurship in Emerging Economics, Diploma in Operations Management. Then she has Fundamentals of Operations Management, certified in Google Analytics, certified in Google Data Studio, postgraduate diploma holder of CIM, diploma in Bachelor of Information Technology and Telecommunication in Cowan University, University Australia, diploma in graphic designing as well. Pumi is a different type of a character. Let me read out other extracurricular and other interests. Passionate marathon runner, completing 6 to 8 marathons, including the Colombo Marathon, the Singapore Marathon, Chennai Inner Strength Half Marathon, and Colombo Ironman 70.3 team event. Proactive hiker and a trekker. Director of Community Service Rotaract Club of Colombo 2009. During this time, completed over 20 community service projects, which includes projects such as Back to School with fundraiser collection about 1 million Sri Lankan rupees to ensure children in the area of Kalpitia goes back to school instead of getting into fishery to support their families. Creating a web portal connecting people who need help with people who want help. Completed JCI Train, the trainer program with which she currently spend time conducting motivational programs under the privileged kids. And she's currently works as a vice president of business management in AFNO Marketing Services. Pumi, we warmly welcome you to SLTC Insider, where she's specialized in supply chain and also SME development programs, strategically connected in building the back end of the entire business that she's representing as the VP of Business Management. So with that, we are ready to kick off the second version of the Insider with Sri Lanka Can, and as the keynote, I will now hand it over to Dr. Deshamani, Dr. Rohan Tatsukurala, to do the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Hashan, and thank you very much for SLTC for the invite that has been extended. I don't know, all this time we've been having so many millions of podcasts and meetings continuously, and I don't know where these discussions are going to move forward, because What we now need is real actions on the ground. So I was just able to get a hold of two slides actually, which I think is very important. Hashan, I need a minute to just incorporate these two slides so that you guys get a better view of what's happening.
Yeah, you're given permission. Yeah, you can share the slides now.
Can see, Hashan?
Yes. If you can put it to the show, then it'll be, yeah, yeah.
So I know Sri Lanka can, but are we in the ICU is the question that we need to ask ourselves, and what we need to do as a team. So thank you again for this invite, and I think we're going to have. I would like to actually answer a few questions. Post this strictly my personal views, and it does not the views of the organizations that I serve. Hashan, I think we'll have to mute Hashan. Okay, lovely. When I was serving, I think when I started doing my doctorate in 2007, I was working for Unilever in India. I was handling the industrial business, and at that time, my professor told me that it's good if I can work for the government. So in 2007, I started working for the government on a small stint. First time I had actually worked full time. And I yet remember Dr. Kohana interviewing me, and he said, I asked him how much my salary is going to be, and he said it's going to be 60,000 rupees. So I asked him, how do you live with 60,000 rupees? And I don't know who the other panel member was, and he said, no, you will adjust. So, I mean, I said, well, I'm earning more than 10 times that salary as at now. That was way back in 2007, and I don't know how you're going to live with 60,000. And I don't, it's very strange, but we all live for 60,000. There was no frills in life. And I suddenly realized that actually you can live for 60,000. And it was a very, you get a way of life that you need to live, and provided you lead a simple life, you can do that. So I used to started working. So, at one time I was heading the Economic Council, which is the key policy-making body reporting to Dr. PV and then the president. And subsequently I served, I think, I served 4 presidents during my tenure in that particular time. And so far I have served all 6 presidents in the last maybe 15 years. And there was one gent that I used to always keep in close contact, which is this guy called Ijaz Ghani. And he was a World Bank economist, and he was leaving Asia and going to Africa. And, we had a meal, And there was like a close sick group of people, about 3 or 4 people, and I asked Ijaz what's going to happen to Sri Lanka. This was in 2010. And the old story there was that we were going to be like Zimbabwe. And he said, Rohanta, there's nothing going to happen, because God is a Sri Lankan. So I said, Ijaz, I respect you so much because we are not learned like you, but we are also not stupid. And then he took this piece of paper and he showed how every time when the country was in absolute disaster, there are things that happen that economics cannot explain. So, I mean, that was all what he said. And then we moved on. And, I just captured something for today. When Hashan told me to come and speak to you, I just took this opportunity to look at what he just said. And, when 2004, when the economy was struggling and we were almost bankrupt at that time, the tsunami came with $3 billion. And in 2008, again, the commodity bubble burst. We were at $150 and we had 11 days of money. I yet remember, guys, at that time I was at the treasury. We had just $150. And then it came down to overnight, $150 barrel of oil came down to $28. Then, we were liberated from the war. And the people who liberated thought that Sri Lanka belongs to them. And we know the kind of work that happened between then till 2015. And at 2:30 in the morning, right, they had to pack their bags and they had to go, and here is a group of people who actually liberated the country from the war. And then we had another group of people who came in and they robbed the central bank. I mean, nowhere in the world that you have a central bank being robbed. And they were also packed away in 2018 without one single seat, So, and then, I can go on and on, guys, like this. It's very strange how then you had a group of people who were appointed in 2019 who had a 2/3 majority. And, the 21st Amendment, other than making a girl a boy, anything can be done. And here is a group of people who were also, chased away from the house, I mean, so I don't know, guys, maybe what Ijaz Ghani said is true. A common man, a common thinking logical man cannot explain the occurrence of events. I mean, you have a private sector who suffers the most in these last 3 years, who don't lift a pen, they don't ever say anything is wrong, and they continue to function as if nothing happens. And you have a small set of kids between the ages of 18 and 25, a million people who walks in, jumps over the gate and says, my friend, it's time for you to go. And from the back of the door, they have to get into a boat and leave. So I don't know, guys. I mean, unheard of. Here is a team that was able to kill the most ruthless terror organization in the world. And, 9th of May to 9th of June to 9th of July, they're just kicked out. So I don't know, guys. I strongly feel that God is a Sri Lanka. Because I cannot give any logic to what I have seen so far. I don't. And I don't know if my fellow panel members, you guys are more experienced than me. I mean, serving so many organizations, being in top panels. I mean, if you take people like Dinesh and all, are very, very intelligent, brilliant professionals in the country. Pumi, of course, has kept on running all over the countryside, including all the, so I'm so proud of you guys. I mean, and, I don't know, just give me a logic to this. I'm challenging all of you Hashan, you have worked as a sales rep. You have become best sales reps, best brand managers. You have won so many awards at Slim Awards. I mean, give me some logic to this scenario. I can't find any logic, guys. And we have a president now who has no party, he has no members, and he has gone on to become president of Sri Lanka. You give me a tell me if God is not a Sri Lankan. So actually, after I found this group of youngsters taking leadership. I don't worry now anything about news because I know that God is a Sri Lankan. I know that you can't deny that fact. And that day I was listening to this youngsters interview on BBC, a 22-year-old boy, yeah? And I don't know whether y'all have seen this video. It was a clip that was going around WhatsApp. The BBC anchor asked, so if you guys don't get what you want, are you all going to resort to violence? And you know what his answer was? 22-year-old boy, yeah? Amazing. He said violence is the last resort that people do to. We don't want to fall into violence. We are very creative people. We are the most creative people in South Asia. We will find a creative way to influence people. I mean, I was thinking, shit, man. I mean, after working for multinationals and the UN and heading 3 government agencies, including the turnaround of an organization like Lanka Can, which Dinesh is aware of, I mean, I never thought of this answer. I mean, that's the power of youth. And after that day, whichever panel I sit to, whichever organization that I'm working for, whichever group of people that I'm leading, the first thing I say is, I want youngsters. And guys, I had Interact, Rotrack, and ISAC for 3 years, Pumi Masiya, and I see the skill set that Interact and Rotrack and ISACers give. I mean, amazing, guys. There are 18,000 kids. Whenever I say you can't do it, they'll come out with a way to do it, which is out of this world, guys. And it's not a lie. You can ask Pumi. The projects that Rotrack has done, out of, I think, 5 projects went to the Asian level to be the best project year before last. And 1 project went on to win the global award. And last year also we won the best global award project. So that's a talent that Sri Lanka brings to the table. And the more we start giving youngsters leadership, they'll come out with creative ways to solve the problems of this country. So the point, I'm just mentioning 2 points here, Hashan, as the chair of today's meeting, is that number 1 is that there is some kind of very unique ability of us solving problems, which Ijaz Ghani gave his logic. He's one of the top economists of the World Bank. And the second point I like to make to you is that the power of the youth. These are the 2 points that I like to share with you at this moment of time. Now, I just did a narrative on the Easter attacks. This is what happened. Now, all of us know that we lost 283,000 people. I mean, I'm a Catholic, and I condone this whole attack. And and as Cardinal says, what we are serving today is because of the wrath of these people who were killed, which everybody knew, and it was negligence, and nobody's taking any responsibility for it, right? But look what happened to that. Electricity consumption dropped by 50%. There were like about 450 jeeps that used to go to Yala. It dropped down to 150 and 15. In Sigiriya, there was a waiting time of 2 hours to climb the rock. I mean, right now I'm working on a UN project where we did the capacity carrying capacity study for Sigiriya. I mean, during the 2018 time, it is horrendous the way that people had to wait and how they had to climb right to the top. And all this just dropped to 0. None of us can buy fruits and vegetables because all the foreigners will come and buy all our fruits and vegetables. And for them to spend $2 is nothing. But for us to spend $2 means, $1,500, no chance in hell. So suddenly fruits and vegetables were available, which was affordable. Chicken was available, right? So, and then suddenly people said you can't rely a country on tourism because tourism is the most vulnerable industry anywhere in the world, whether it's man-made or natural. So you have to get into the manufacturing-based exports, which is getting it. So we have to diversify our exports. So I don't know, guys. I'm telling you, I'm going back to what World Bank economist Ijaz Ghani said, that I think there is some kind of thing that we need to ask ourselves about Sri Lanka. Now, while I say that, while you were talking and introducing, I was able to bring these two slides to the reality. So let's forget what IMF is saying. Let's forget what all the economists are talking about, the $51 billion debt we have to pay and how we have to now restructure our overall state-owned enterprises that are making losses. And if you don't do that, our current expenditure is something like 3.4 trillion and our current income is about 1.6 trillion. So I mean, just imagine, Hashan, if you are spending 3.3.5 lakhs and your income is 1.5 lakhs, I mean, and you come and ask me some money, I mean, how can you keep on asking money? I mean, one day I'm going to ask you, stop, Hashan, all the parties you have. You have two pool parties in your house. You have one party in a sailing ship in Port City, and then you ask him my money. You know what I'm saying? So that's what IMF is telling today. Right? I mean, look at where, and when you guys can't pay the public sector end of the month, you print money. And when you print money, your inflation goes up. So look at what has happened to our inflation. Our retail prices have gone up this kind of level. I mean, our inflation happens to be something like 68% for overall, and food only is 93%. So on the hanky inflation, I'm sure we must be touching 148 or 150. So, and we know that it's the truth. I mean, if you take an average bill in a supermarket now and before, you know that these statistics are right. And look at what happened to the consumer. Look at how people's consumption is declining, and so let's forget all this economic jargon, but just look at the consumer. So World Bank, yesterday I was at a meeting, the World Bank was saying that 750,000 people are in the poverty belt. And by end of this year, almost 40% of Sri Lankans are going to be on the poverty. So that's the reality. So, Mr. Chairman, the point I'm trying to tell you is that this is the reality of Sri Lanka. Now, the question is, can Sri Lanka, do I believe in Sri Lanka can? Yes, we can. I know that. But we have a few challenges. The first is, do we have the expertise? And I think we have some of the best expertise that we can have in the apparel sector. I mean, you have the Mahesh Amalians and the Ashraf Omars of the world. You take the technology companies, you have the Virtus and the HCLs on the line. You take the IT companies, you have the top IT people in the country. You take the tea sector, all the best tea plantation companies like Mabrook Teas and all that kind of thing are all Global Compact Alliance, Rainforest Alliance, I mean, ethically manufactured. So guys, we have the expertise. There's nothing called we don't have the expertise, right? Now, what do we have to do? Do we have the product? Yes, we have. We have Ceylon tea, known all over the world. Sri Lanka apparel is known all around the world. All the top companies in the world want buy apparel from us. Even if you take the current Commonwealth Games, half those guys are swimming or running with apparel manufactured in Sri Lanka. The top tennis players of the world, with the Serena Williams or the Rafa Nadals of the world, they're all wearing Sri Lankan apparel. We supply 90% of cinnamon to the world. I mean, the whole royal family has a sapphire that has been bought from Sri Lanka. So do we have what it takes? Yes, we do. There's nothing to ask, guys. I mean, tea industry. So I'm just giving you, Mr. Chairman, I gave you in my part A the reality of Sri Lanka at the consumer end. Forget all these economic statistics, right? Which is here, okay? And now I'm telling you, do we have what it takes for Sri Lanka Can? Yes, we can. I mean, these are the brands that we have in this country. Outstanding brands. These are product categories. If you take Sri Lankan tea, which was 0.65 billion in 1990, today it's touching 2.5 billion kind of a thing. And this is where we are going. Right? I mean, outstanding, guys. Outstanding. I mean, you know, we were state run in tea. You know, I sat on the tea board for 10 years. I've been seeing this process go. When the auction system came in, they said, hey guys, you know, will Sri Lanka crash? Because we are telling all the buyers to come to Sri Lanka. It didn't happen. In 1992, we went for privatization. And that was the first state-owned privatization process that happened. My dad is a tea planter, so he was in the program. And then, you know, people diversified into export agriculture, tourism, and, you know, all sorts of other things in regard to a tea. And a company like whatever, which does 100% tea export, only tea revenue, suddenly became only 50% because everything else was coming from different other things. And today we are the first ethical tea producer globally as per the Kyoto Protocol. Now, which means that from the time that something is manufactured right at the point till it's consumed at the home. So they say, you know, from the floor to the throat, everything is ethically produced. I mean, which is a proposition that Kenyan teas or the Mombasa teas or the Indian teas, the Darjeeling teas can't give. If you take an apparel, which was just 0.2 billion, I remember making this presentation to a cabinet of ministers in 2004. In 1990, way back in 1990, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam, all three of us put together, you know, we had each 2 billion in exports. And by 2000, I mean, as we speak today, Bangladesh exports are at 50 billion, Vietnam is at 213 billion, and Sri Lanka is at about 16 billion. So, I mean, something has gone wrong in this country, you know, but there was something right, which happened when the private sector set in. I mean, this whole project was run by a private-public partnership. So a lot of people say public sector is useless. It's all right, wrong. I worked in the public sector. 95% of the public sector are honest. And if you take a public sector average person, they're all first-class honors graduates, not like a private sector who has come from O-level and A-level. They're very bright guys. I've been chairman of the Export Development Board and the Tourism Board also. The skill set that those guys have is unbeatable. Brilliant. I mean, they are all honors graduates from university. So they have to be fantastic in terms of thinking quality and the leadership in terms of quality of thinking and the skills they possess. It's just that they need business acumen. I agree, but they're fantastic. That's why we are there to lead the companies. So when I took over Lanka Satosa, it was making a 2 billion loss. I mean, Dinesh knows it. I mean, within 7 months, we had turned it out to profit. And if you look at 2016, the best sales, 2017, the best sales representative at Unilever, at Nestle, at Hemas, at Ceylon Biscuits, everywhere was the person who was sending the Lanka Sato's account, not Keels or Cargills. So it can be done, you know, right? Now, apparel guys, we were called tailors. We became sourcing management, supply chain specialists, social accountability, and guys, today we are the first ethical sourcing destination. And Jeff yesterday sent a report saying that we will be crossing $6 billion this year. They're having a 20% growth. Guys, so we have the skill sets, we have the industry, and I'm not just shouting, Mr. Chairman, Sri Lanka can. I'm just giving you with facts and data. And guys, there's a beautiful strategy that has been developed for $28 billion for 2030. It can be done. Okay, it can be done. We are right now at 15. Apparel can move to 10 billion. Tea can get into 5 billion because you have to come out with the tea hub proposition, which means that you can bring in cheap quality teas. You can blend it through interport trade, and then you will export it as a beverage. So that if Pumi goes to Nepal and she's climbing going to base camp in Nepal, she says she's thirsty. She can either have water, she can have a glass of milk, she can have Coca-Cola, or she can have a cup of tea. And that tea happens to be all iced tea. It will have peppermint flavor, lime flavor, lemon flavor, cinnamon. So that's called, this whole thing called, a tea hub, and you play the game in the beverage market rather than being a connoisseur of tea. So that can be 5 billion. Rubber industry can be 6 billion. And IT BPO industry, which is currently 1 billion, can be 5 billion. We have 23,000 graduates who are known. I mean, SLTC must be knowing this. We produce only 13,000 graduates. HCL has taken 21 floors in Cinnamon Life. They have only 10 floors that are occupied right now. So there is so much opportunity which is there. And all the schools are into producing software graduates and cybersecurity experts and stuff like that. So, guys, the point I'm saying to you is that, when you add all these expos together, we are touching 28 billion. And if you take people who are living abroad, they bring in about $12 billion. And so, I mean, guys, you're talking about 40 billion on our table right now. So we are a rich country. We're a rich country, right? It's just that I don't know why we cannot. And we cannot is only for one reason, because there's corruption. And guys, people who have the courage to say no to corruption, it's very easy people to talk on saying no to corruption, but when you have money on the table and you will take it. Understood? But guys, I can tell you very strongly, I have been chairman of 3 organizations. We have never said yes to corruption. When I was asked to sign a 750 million bill to give a ERP package to some guy in PETA, when I was chairman of the still Lanka Can, I just took a piece of paper and I gave my resignation. I get into a try show and I left and came back home. That's it, guys. I didn't even take the company maintained car, right? So, and my whole board did the same thing, right? My CEO was Rajiv Mewakala, who is now the CEO of Ceylon Brewery, right? So, and there was, all the media was shouting how we didn't give in to corruption. And at the highest level, the people are calling us to sign this, but we said no. So guys, that is where the problem is. And if that problem can be taken off the mantle, we can be Sri Lanka can. And if you ask me, Mr. Chairman, am I happy with what's happening today? I'm absolutely thrilled what's happening today, because now there's no money in the government and then nobody can rob anything now. Understood? Now nobody wants to go and work. Why? Because there's no money to rob. So now people will have to start asking yourself, how do I make Sri Lanka strong? And guys, I have worked in EBB, I worked in the apparel industry strategy. I have done the marketing plan for tea with the tea board for 10 years. I've been involved in the rubber strategy with regard to Lanka Preen. I'm totally into IT BPO industry, totally linked. So whatever I say is what I have done. I'm not saying anything which is in some book or something like that. So we have a beautiful national export strategy that has been developed by globally. It was done in 2015. I hope it can be implemented, but we have a problem because we don't have people. When you have an employment which is going to be at unemployment at like 5%, that 5% doesn't want to work, guys. Buggers want to tap into some fellows neighboring property and eat some varaka and have some toddy and sleep. That bugger is not going to come to work. So you can't chase after 5%. But then we also know that half the public sector happens to be the forces. And these forces, can we redefine, repurpose them, so that we can reduce our bill, because you have to understand the forces are very costly, and we have a lot of respect for them, but then the need of the hour is to repurpose. So we have to start restructuring ourselves, starting from the Sri Lankan army, which is half the public sector of people of 1.7 million. So very hard decisions have to be made in the next 3 months, cutting down the labor, restructuring CEB, restructuring Petroleum Corporation, CEB. I mean, guys, it has to be done. It's going to hurt, because every time a minister comes, he puts all his people in, right? So that's the reality, and we have seen it to our own eyes. So now we need to de-hire. And last point I like to mention is tourism. when I took over tourism in 2015, I made this presentation to the hierarchy, and I showed them how when you go and ask anybody, please come to Sri Lanka, only 2% say from British, 1% from Germany, 1% from France. Likewise, this was research done by Insignia Research Company. And then we go and tell the guys, do you know that we have the most beautiful beaches in the world ranked by National Geographic? Eighth wonder of the world comes from Sigiriya. And Mr. Chairman, I'm on this UN team. I actually lead the team for this carrying capacity study, which I just presented. If you were to take a saw and cut Sigiriya into half, and you put both together, it's symmetrical. It's a marvel of um, urban development that you can ever see that happened 8,000 years or 10,000 years back. There's no competition globally for this. And we need to start associating setting our tourism with this. Beaches, somebody can say Maldives is better. The wildlife, somebody can say Kenya is better. But Sigiriya, there's no competition, guys. And that's something that we need to talk about. So that, if you go to Egypt and you don't go to the pyramids, you are not going to Egypt. And if you don't come to Sri Lanka, if you don't go to Sigiriya, you're not in Sri Lanka. Currently, only 21% of the tourists go there, as per the research, which means 80% don't go there. Okay. We have the ethically most beautiful tea plantations, the highest density of leopard in any wildlife park happens to be in Yala. It's not in Samburu or Masai Mara. It's in Yala. Highest density of elephants in any park happens to be in Mineria. You get elephants on the road. Now, of course, you have elephants who cross down in Golf Face also, about it. There are a lot of people crossing elephants, from in Golf Face. But what I'm saying is, I'm talking about the ones in Abarana. The best Ayurveda happens to be in Sri Lanka. It's not in Kerala. Okay. The oldest pageant is in Sri Lanka. And of course, you have 30 kilometers, you see the whale and then you see the elephant, which is like, I remember one day I was at the gym at about 8:30 and I got a call from Chandra, who handles connaissance. And he said, Rwanta, Carlos Moye is down. I said, who is Carlos Moye? He said, no, Rwanta, you don't know Carlos Moye. I said, I don't know, Chandra. He said, he's the best soccer player in the world. He captained Real Madrid and he also captained Spain to the World Championship. So I said, what do you want me to do? Rwanta, get him to endorse your brand. Searched the whole night, guys. I couldn't find him. So next day in the morning, I searched and I found him at Down Gaul. Okay. Not Saman Villas. It's a Taj property. Okay. So I quickly got into the car and I went and said, sir, I'm chairman tourism. I saw the guy, and I said, I like you to, your whole trip is sponsored. He said, no, I have already paid for it. So then I said, could you mind putting a small clip about Sri Lanka and saying that you love Sri Lanka? He said, I love to, but I can't. I said, why? He said, I come with my girlfriend and not my wife. So but he anyway had put a liking saying in the morning he had gone to see whale and the evening he had seen the elephant, which are the two largest mammals in the world in one day. And within 15 hours, there was 1 million likes. And that year we got only 1 million tourists. So, that's the power of Sri Lanka. But when you can ask anybody, what do you really remember Sri Lanka for? They say smiling faces. That's all. 85% of the people in the airport exit survey say, I'll come back to Sri Lanka because of the smiling faces of Sri Lankans. So when you go and ask the guy, hey, my friend, what do you think now? Would you come now? Look at how the propensity increase. You see, so the point I'm just trying to say, guys, is that, I think the argument that I'm giving to the table today is that I told you at the consumer and the issue that we have. Can we do? I told you a little bit about what Ijaz Ghani told me, but whilst I look at that, I've told you that do we have the products to be Sri Lanka Can? Yes. Do we have the skill set? Yes, I said. And I think today we are at tipping point because we have no money and we are at the real end of our purse. We are really struck. 40% of Sri Lankans are going to be poor. They are going to go to the poverty line. So in this background, guys, it's time for us to, take this evil of corruption out. And if you do that, I'm 150% sure that within the next 8 to 12 months, I repeat myself, Mr. Chairman, with a lot of experience, I'm telling you this because I ran the Sri Lankan economy. Between 8 to 12 months, Sri Lanka will be the miracle of Asia. And I love that positioning for this brand. Yep, I mean, that's all I have for you. Let me just see, Hashan. Guys, I just want to share one more thing with you guys. Mr. Chairman, can I have 2-3 minutes to share this?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please. You can go ahead.
See, guys, I think we must do this. All of us must get together and, Hashan, you said that you're going to put action document. And I think one point I like to put to you is this one single idea that if we can champion it, and if since Dinesh is also there, if all of us can get together, 3 of us can get together, or 4 of us can get together and make this happen, I'm prepared to lead this discussion globally. This is called a nation brand building campaign. It was done by Croatia. This is Croatia, guys. Just like in 1995, they were hammered with civil riots and absolute crazy. The brand just declined. Then what happened was they concentrated on this thing called brand building. Simon Arnold actually came out with this, and subsequently he said that he prefers to, he has a beautiful thing. Simon is brilliant. He's one of my very close friends who lives in London. He said these are the pillars that builds the country: good tourism, good exports, investments, culture and heritage, and people. And I talked to you about 5 things that I said that the problem was governance. If we can correct governance, guys, everything is done. Hashan, we need to mute. Okay, see, guys, our problem is governance. I mean, Japan has said that they have 4 billion that they can give us, but they're saying, first of all, IMF approve it. IMF says, I can't give you money because you buggers are bloody rogues. Simple words they're telling you. Understood? And nobody wants to say something. I mean, if you look at the 2 appointments that the Prime Minister has done, President has done even today, I mean, one guy has been almost, the Japan government has virtually said you are robbed. Understood? Buggy is appointed again as Minister of Ports and Telecom. If you take the chairman of, I don't know, a state country that has been run, then the information is that he should be in prison. So, guys, if we are not going to correct this even today and tomorrow, and all rogues are getting appointed, you can't do nation brand building. Sorry, guys, I'm being absolutely forthright because, I don't want to waste my time. I prefer to go to the gym, Hashan, right? And I'm telling you guys, this is done. So, Mr. President, you first clear these things if you want professionals like us to come and serve and do things, because we are not going to rob. And we know that because of robbery is why this country is like this, being so rich in skill and in products and services. Now, what did Croatia did? Croatia realized this, and they started this whole campaign with tourism. This is what they do on tourism. They told the story, guys. And currently awareness of Sri Lanka is only 4%. If you go and ask anybody around the world, what do you think of Sri Lanka? They'll talk about terrorism, they'll talk about Easter attacks, and now they say you're bankrupt. Understood? Okay, so we can build this. Okay, then you get into tourism, you can see how they build the global campaign and how they built it. In 2015, I got Ravi Jayawardena, the vice president of Nestle, Baddu Legodage, and I mean all the top people wanted to float a tendered, floated, top 8 ad agencies, 7 came on board. 2 days before the tender was to be opened, the minister comes and says he wants the 8th ad agency to be done. And ultimately we said no. And then all the tourism boards were dissolved. To date, there is no global tender. And our neighboring company, Sunny Side of Life of Maldives, brilliant campaign. Incredible India, brilliant. So guys, again, corruption. But here is it where Croatia got their act together and look at the kind of growth that they're having. I mean, 6.6 billion euro. Huh? Then if you look at investment, they drove Sheratons, Radissons, Westins, and Hiltons into Croatia. Guys, we already have these characters. Hilton is doing 6 properties. Look at how they develop the exports. They call it they put a tag saying Croatian quality on all the exports. You know, you put a brand. Anybody who's exporting puts a brand. So if FAMAS is going on a huge export drive, call it a Sri Lankan brand. You know, guys, we are bankrupt. Everybody will help us. Everybody. Understood? I mean, last week I was in Nepal because I work for artificial intelligence company. And I went to buy a shirt. He said 700 Indian rupees. Sorry, Nepal rupees. So I said, what about 600? He said, okay. He said, where are you from? I said, from Sri Lanka. He said, no. I said, why? He said, no, Sri Lanka can't. No money. No food. No fuel. I said, you're right. But, you know, there's a direct flight, you know. And then I gave him 1,000 Nepali rupees. And he gave me 500 back. So I quickly took my purse out and said, sir, I think you have made a mistake and I want to give the 100 back to him. And he said, no, sir, you keep that. Right? So, I mean, that's where we are right now, guys. That bloody retailer wants to give me 100 rupees, you know, right? And you know what I'm saying? So, and I did a scan of different sectors in Nepal, in Kathmandu. Everybody is having this image because, see, guys, it's all over media that the president has he had to flee. And 50 million people in China was watching the flight from Maldives to Singapore. I mean, it was like a movie, moving from here to there kind of a thing, you know. Then on governance, this is what they did. Human Development Index, they opened a consulate in every single European Union, 174 countries, diplomatic relations were built. Culture and heritage was advertised. So Sigiriya, we are there with it. And then the people, I mean, guys, we don't have Miss Universe, but we have Mrs. Universe, you know. So there's some, in our DNA, our women get prettier when they're married, you know. So what do you do, guys? It's a trend, right? And I don't know whether everybody knows this lady, yeah? She's the one, you'll never forget her because you remember in the rain, how she hugged the football team, huh? So, you know, we have fantastic case studies of the world of things that we can. So thank you very much, Chairman, for this invite and appreciate for the thoughts. I again repeat, guys, these are my personal thoughts and not the views of the organization I serve. Okay. Thank you very much.
Wow. We never thought that we will ever see Jayasuriya back again on a webinar. We really planned this webinar to be very harmless, very contained, but this is absolutely rocking, Dr. Rohan. I mean, yeah, finally, the point boiled down to yours is that the governance has to be right in the nation brand hexagon. Keeping aside tourism, people, expose culture and heritage, you know, immigration, whatnot aside, good governance in the center. And Croatia did it superbly. And and that lady came out and hugged the footballers in the rain. That's promotion. And every time some from our people goes to watch a match, we tend to lose that match. So there's no way to hug anyone. Well, keep that aside. We are now opening to the panel discussion. I'm inviting viewers to post your questions to the chat box. And yeah, we're opening the first round of questions. We would like to now see, there's a question being posed to Dr. Dinesh Hamangoda. The first round, we are going to start with you, sir. From an industry point of view, what is your exact view on business strategies for corporate sector. From an industry point of view, what is your exact view or your comment or your what do you call the holistic roundup with regards to business strategies for corporate sector in a situation where Dr. Rohan then encapsulated? Dr. Dinesh, over to you.
Hashan, am I audible?
Yes, very much, Doctor.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Hashan, for giving this opportunity to me. It's a great privilege to speak in a SLTC, sort of a, webinar forum. So, starting with what the enlightening speech by Dr. our very good senior friend, Dr. Rohan Tatukorla, he gave us a good perspective of national level, I would say national to global level strategies that some of our companies, maybe the government, maybe at national level that we should do. National branding, how we can, build our tea export, tea board to the next level and stuff like that. So in terms of things we all of us are lecturing, including you. So when Dr. Rohan Tatukor was explaining this, one perfect strategy came to my mind. How we can rebuild Sri Lanka is this so-called very popular strategy of Porter's diamond theory. So I think Dr. Rohan Tatukorla went through the whole, that strategy without mentioning the theorem. So I think as a nation, if we can, go to the nuts and bolts of this Porter's diamond theory, so what he explained is almost there. And how can we take this, USPs like, Sigiriya and build on the core competency? And we have people, we have all the supporting environment, restaurants and stuff like that. So if you take a theoretical framework or corporate strategy in national level, I think that's the best. But I think the question posed to me is not, since Dr. Rohan touched upon the national level picture, I think you want me to touch upon the companies, how we facing the inflation, how we mitigate, how we face and how we try to hibernate through this crisis situation, rather the inflation, stuff like that. So first strategy, I would say the cost minimization strategy. I would say not minimization, cost optimization strategy. So look at the cost structures of your companies. Can we get rid of some frills? For instance, like, can we stop hiring new people? If you have given some frills like, extra bonuses, unnecessary incentives, can we look at, cut and maintain and, save our profit? So can we look at, have we given extra promotional stuff, some unnecessary trade discounts, so some visibility payments? Then, if we can look at the whole cost structure and remove the frills. So that would be the main strategy, not only my company, most of the companies are going through this cost optimization philosophy. So going into the second level strategy, I don't know whether I'm using the proper word, I would say the scale optimization strategy. For an example, like if we are catering to, let's say, if we are catering to a set of outlets once a week, can we re-look at, once in 2 weeks? Since we are going through a dollar crisis, fuel crisis, we need to save. So can we, rather than, going to all outlets, can we minimize the best set of outlets and can we focus? For instance, like if you are distributing to distributors in a weekly basis, can we have a methodology that we, have a delivery system once a month? Through that we can save our dollars, we can save our rupees, we can save our food. Same thing. Another example is, rather than now, most of us are, lacking products to sell. You and me and everyone, we don't have dollars to find out raw materials to produce. So advertising is that a must these days. So can we minimize the advertisement budget? And, if you want to keep some voice in the market, can we get into some digital medium? And can we go into some, BTL level communication and fulfill that need? So that is, of course, called the scale optimization pillar. Third is I'm going into the prioritization strategy. So you must be having so many products in your company. Maybe a service company, maybe a bank, maybe an FMCG company, food company. So we don't have dollars to maybe import to produce all the product. So prioritizing strategies, can we look at the high profitable, high per kg revenue generation products, or some products that are highly essential for company survival? Because for a company to run, we need to have some sort of a volume. So can we prioritize that high value, high prioritize, highly profitable, highly essential products and prioritize and promote? So that will be, I would call, prioritization strategy. And in the same time, rather than going to all the outlets, can we prioritize key channels rather than maybe for some companies, GT may be not a prioritized channel. Can be MT, can be industrial channel, maybe the highly prioritized channel. Third strategy is cash, cash, cash. I know most of the companies now prioritizing cash versus profit, because in these days sometimes we can achieve profits, but people who have cash will be in the winning formula. So have a strategy to prioritize cash collection, give some incentive to cash customers, prioritize cash customers, for instance, like have a robust mechanism to cash collection. Strong follow-up stuff like that. So in all the companies, cash is a number one mantra, number one philosophy, because cash is survival. Because for you to, most of the suppliers are now asking for what? Advance payments. So suppose we give 30 days credit to a customer, now we don't have that luxury because our raw material suppliers are asking for cash. So having cash is a competitive advantage. So having cash philosophy, I would say, number one corporate strategy that we need to adapt. Third is restructuring of your organization. Look at yourself. Do we need set of directors, a managing director and a chairman? Can we have, frillless sort of an organization? When we reorganize, stop recruiting new people, can a department head, can he double head? Can one sales manager, rather than looking after one territory or one channel, can he look after two channels and get rid of one person? So looking at this restructuring model and getting into new, I would say, business strategies. So can we, being a local company, can our corporate strategy be more biased to exports? Can we acquire an export company? Can we merge with an exporting company? So if we are doing 100% local business, can we slowly moving, let's say we are manufacturing biscuits for local market. At the same time, can we focus on internationalization? Can we, export our biscuits to Bangladesh or Cambodia? So total business, strategy change is another thing. And driving some sort of a timely business philosophy. So I strongly recommend all the business, corporate leaders to adapt to this growth mindset business philosophy. So drive growth mindset as a business psychology or a philosophy in your company. That means you drive a behavior that everyone to look at any issue. So literature says crisis is an opportunity. So every crisis situation, there's an opportunity. Just to give you an example, let's say for restaurants, we don't have, sometime back, we didn't have enough gas. So if you can have an alternative fuel or an innovative way to find out gas, your hotel will be having a monopolistic situation. You will be the one and only hotel in that region. So you can gain some extra distance. Let's say nowadays everyone is having stress. So if you're a hospital, if you're having less number of patients, you can come up with a campaign like, since everyone is under tremendous stress, go through a psychological test or go through a health screening. So every crisis type of a thing, there's an opportunity. Let's say if we are a multinational, let's say distribution company, because of the fuel crisis, many companies can't reach their outlets, all of the outlets. So if you can have a methodology through e-bikes or some electronic scooters to go and rep and distribute, you're creating what you call an opportunity. I would say a crisis to oasis. Can we make this crisis to oasis if I rhyme it properly. So that's another strategy. Another thing would be, I would say, you will have to prioritize survival versus profit. As a company, now let's say we are a soap manufacturing company. We can price soap to gain super profit. We can price soap, let's say 500 rupees is okay, but we can't, because we need to make sure we need to have a company to survive. Because if the company is going to get no volumes after increasing the price of a soap piece to 500, in 1 year's time there won't be a soap manufacturing company. So first of all, make sure your industry, your company is survive rather than going for extra profit. So if you can make sure your employees are happy, you're having some motivated programs to make sure the survival when the country when the country is into the perfect situation, I mean, you have a superb company to continue. Another one that I would like to adapt is a strategy of timely innovations. Company has to go through in their product portfolio or the service portfolio some timely innovations. Now, look at let's say a hand wash. Do we need glossy finish in a hand wash? Do we need packaging, superb packaging for a soap? So can we have free products? Products with freeless. Can we go into dispensing? Can we go into low packaging less, this thing? Can we go into green marketing solutions like shampoo bars? We are removing the whole plastic of the shampoo and giving some value to the consumer. So those type of, I have seen an article that a burger, based on how much you can afford for a burger, you can tailor-make your burger. If you don't have money, you can have a basic cheeseburger. If you have little money, you can have another, onion layer or another meat layer. So can you come up with some, timely innovations? Perfumeless soaps, I'm just saying. So company need to get into this innovation mode. And finally, you need to make sure your frontliners are not happy, survive. Because most of the time, in any sort of a company, in a crisis situation, in a hyperinflation levels, frontliners are getting affected. So most of the frontliners are now trying to go to Middle East because they can't survive in this sort of a salary scale. Because most of the companies gave, let's say, 5 to 10% maximum salary increases. So the bottom level can't survive. So can we make sure our frontliners are given some incentives, given some allowance, and you need to protect as a corporate strategy, because without frontliners, without factory workers, frontline salespeople, you can't survive. So as a corporate, make sure your frontliners are perfectly shaped and getting into from value philosophy to volume philosophy. So most of the time we are just asking, okay, last year what was the turnover? Now this year what is the turnover? Forget about this value because of the hyperinflation, you can easily go for values. Go for volumes. Check your last year volume versus this year volume, and go into some numeric analysis and check which product has lost the volume and have a program to jack up that volume. I have went through a nice case study, a confectionery company. They lost some volumes. When they really analyze, they realize not all the packs had lost volumes, only the big pinged items had the volume drop. So instantly they came up with a campaign, okay, forget about all the promotion for other packs, give a thumping promotion for what? This tinned product. So they survive. They get their usual, the targeted volume growth. And finally, I would say curbing the export part from your product. For instance, like if you're producing batteries, can we source many of the elements from the local market rather than going for import? So look at your product portfolio. Maybe it may be a chemical product, it means food product. While during the manufacturing, can you make sure lots of items are sourced from local sources? And finally, I'll give you another, a value sort of an innovation idea. Now, everyone is going for if you're going out and visit a relative, you usually, get them a gift pack. So traditionally, we go with a cake, we go with a, assorted biscuit tin now, Hashan. Now look at if you are a FMCG manufacturer, if you are a spice manufacturer, can we come up with a assorted gift pack with soaps, assorted gift pack with, sanitary products, assorted gift pack with spices? So have we thought on that line? So if you're running short of volumes, if your volumes are, into erosion, always look at this crisis situation as an opportunity. So in any sort of a crisis, who survives is the people who have out of the box mindset, who go for creativity. So let's take we stopped importing vehicles. Now Ideal Motors came up with Moksha. So they would have just told we don't have imports, so we can't import certain things. We are going to close down the manufacturing. So they came up with some localized products, which lots of local value addition. So my final philosophy is, if you want to survive in this sort of a crisis, I would say hyperinflationary situation, having the growth mindset, driving the growth mindset in your company, and drive out of the box thinking and innovation, and make sure your frontliners are protected and well motivated, will be key for survival, not only for survival, to be happy with your normal profit expectation. So that's from mine. Hope I gave some enlightenment.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that insight, Dr. Dinesh. Yes. Well, finally, crisis is an opportunity. It boils down to that, and you clearly said the pillars that the corporates has to take into consideration. Well, when this be documented, these ideas of yours will be clearly visible, so that anyone can use it after that. But right now, what you're saying is take the traditional mindset out and move out of the whole box and see what's the world ahead, and especially from the corporate sectors. And
because
still, I mean,
since I am many corporate forums, I'm usually in touch with all the CEOs and board director level people. So most of the people who are happy and survived are the people who went through this few key.
Absolutely.
So that's what I wanted to share.
Right, and
not my creation. This is what is being practiced.
Yeah, understand, doctor. And also, the other thing that you rightly touched on is that Moksha innovation. It's totally what you call no fuel. It's on highly electric, and they everyone thought, okay, it's these factories can be closed down easily. They might close down, but they revived, and they said, look, we have innovation. I mean, he who builds an innovation in the midst of a crisis will definitely survive, because he gets the attention of billions or millions of people. I mean, you and I have done it so much of times when things happen as crises in the companies we worked. I mean, I'm so proud that Ideal Motors have done this. I mean, it's brilliant. They got instant that particular share that's saying that we launched Moksha immediately went viral. Dr. Dinesh, you won't believe it touched more than 1 million views, right? And the inquiry level, because there's a friend of mine working for Ideal Motors, and the inquiries keep on coming, and they have a nice structure to enable someone to get this vehicle. I mean, they nailed it. I think they are the best brand of the year if they put the case through. I mean, you very rightly said. So strategies like that, I mean, amazing in the midst of a huge crisis in Sri Lanka. We are talking here Sri Lanka Can. Ideal Motors is giving a perfect example, and you're elaborating it, Dr. Dinesh. That's amazing. Piyumi, there's a question for you as the first round. Since Dr. Dinesh spoke about the corporate sector strategies, what will be the key revival role? Now, you're very closely working with the small medium entrepreneurs, and you are totally different. Your career attire is totally different to us, from a marathon runner to starting with very small scale entity, and rose up to a VP level in a huge back-end operation today, and going globally and working with a lot of SMEs. What will be the key revival role for SMEs in Sri Lanka? Yumi, over to you.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, audible.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you so much and good evening, everyone. There are two esteemed panelists, our keynote speaker and Dr. Dinesh, who brought up a lot of theory and flair. So I'm going to talk about something completely different. I'm a very practical person. I come from a very practical background. I've been a SME at some point in my life for 10 years in the beverage industry, and I've experienced talking to over 400, 500 SMEs in the last 2 to 3 years. So I'm going to sum up what my experience is. This is not something that you don't know. So I apologize for repeating what you know, but sometimes I think we all need to remind ourselves of what we already know. So before I start, let me just share some facts. Let's first understand the SME. So in Sri Lanka, there's 1 million SMEs, 1 million plus SMEs in Sri Lanka, and we have a population of 22 million. Out of all the businesses, 75% represents the SMEs. Now, the SME contribution to the GDP is 52%, and they give 45% employment. Now, these are interesting facts. And sadly, women ownership for SMEs, only 25% of the total SME represented. And even further, today we are facing a crisis, a dollar crisis. And of the total export value, there are only 3,000 plus exporting SMEs in this country. Now, let's look at the question again. So what is the key divider role for SMEs? I have broken this down to 6 points. It's very practical 6 points. So I'm going to say it out. Let's not complain, but let's move. I think Dr. Hamangoda, Dr. Dinesh said the same thing in a different way. And I'm going to give you a small example to this. Do global, not local. Collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. This was spoken throughout with both our speakers. Embrace new technology and the new normal. Know your market and understand your rights. So let me take you through these 6 points quickly. Let's not complain. Let's move. It's very simple. Today we are in a crisis. Accept it. Let's take action. Do we sit about it and cry about it, saying, I need help, I need aid, or do we do something about it? So I have a very simple example of somebody who did something about it. Just like you, I was on a fuel queue one day, and I was on a call, and then I saw a guy passing by. And I suddenly stopped my conversation and I went behind him and I wanted to speak to him because I was very curious to see what he was doing. So he's a guy who used to sell small ornaments and items in Peta bus market. And he used to make about 5,000, 6,000 rupees a day. So I asked him, what are you doing here now? So he said, I have 2 kids to feed. I have my wife, she can't work, and I live on rent. So I need to figure out a way to make income. So Dr. Dinesh, from what you said, is it about profit or survival? He decided survival. So for survive, he decided to create a new market. What is the new market? Everybody who is in fuel queues. Now there's nobody who is lining up for buses. There's no buses anyway in the bus stand. So he's identified a new market in the fuel queue. So he's in the same business of trading, but now he's trading phone chargers, the bad charger for the car, because some people come, they forget, the water bottle, the power bank. These are his items that he's selling, and he's telling me, today I'm not making the same income as I used to do, but I'm making about 3,000 to 4,000, which is enough for me to survive. So this is the key point. SMEs need to change the mindset. We need to start moving. We can't wait for somebody else to come and tell us this is how to do it. We have to take action. And on the other hand, all these biogas and all these other innovation comes. So through crisis, there's innovation and opportunity. Now, opportunity came. There's biodiesel. There's a young gentleman who is running all his vehicles using cooking oil. There is an old gentleman for the last 10 years has not paid a single cent for gas because he's created gas at home, and he's 60 years plus. Now, if we take further the same concept of this coconut shell example, the liquor that has come, if the innovation is there, now innovation is there, if you use other assets of support, you can actually look at people who are selling the coconut shells, work with them, right? And you collect the database from the people who are selling the cooker and and connect with the people who are doing deliveries, right? And you create your ecosystem, and you have a monthly requirement of coconut, the coconut shells that is required for the cooking. On a monthly basis, you start delivering. So this is, let's move, let's take action immediately, and let's not wait. So from that, we are talking about do global and not local. We have 22 million population, and how much can you sell? How much water bottles can you sell? How much spices can you sell? And we have a whole world out there, 7.9 billion people. That's a market out there. And we have this mindset, unfortunately, we are Sri Lankan, apita puluanda, api podine, api accept karaida. I don't know whether everybody who's using iPhones today know that most parts of the iPhone is actually manufactured in China. And we say Chinese badu honda dai. It's not good and it's inferior. So why do we have a mindset of we are Sri Lankan? Why? What is wrong? We are Sri Lankan. So put that badge, we are Sri Lankan. Like Dr. Atkar said, quality products from Sri Lanka, think global. There is the very small example that I'm going to give you, other than the traditional business that Dr. Mahanta was talking about, the rubber, tea, how we can actually make it big. That's large business. But in small businesses, do you know that jackfruit is a commodity as a large export item in Sri Lanka? And jackfruit grows just like that in our country. It's just very simple. You throw some seeds and it just grows. And today's becoming a vegan is a big thing in the Western part and the European part of the world. So they eat everything related to jackfruit. So if the SME committee can get together, right, understand this market and make yourselves known about this, we can look at just not this 22 million, but the 7.9 billion. And then we think
Ashan, I think the power cut.
Yeah, I think she lost the power. She's still in. She's still in from another device. Okay. Yeah, she's still in. Okay. Yeah. Let's go for a quick break until she returns. SLTC Insider is brought to you by Sri Lanka Technological Campus. You're live now with the SLTC Insider. That comes to you live from Padukka. SLTC Sri Lanka Technological Campus. We call it the Research University. Yeah, there she is. She's back. She's back. Okay, we were about to take a break, but continue. Yeah, the power cut, is it?
Power cut, unexpected power cuts. This is what we need to prepare ourselves.
While we talking Sri Lanka Can, and Dr. Rohanta just and Dr. Dinesh just mentioned about it, and there we have proof, live proof. Okay, please, you can continue.
So then I was talking about going global. I hope everybody heard about the music industry, the modeling industry, how we've captured the market. Then we talk about collaboration. Now, Dr. Dinesh was also talking about collaboration. Now, let's take a simple example of how delivery system can be collaborated. Now, everybody is trying to have their own pie, have their own delivery system. I need to deliver my food. I need to deliver my product. But now in this crisis situation, why can't we all get together? Pizza Hut has their own delivery mechanism. Grasshoppers has their own delivery mechanism. Why can't we all get together, collaborate together? Collaboration is not only collaborating with different stakeholders, but also with competition. There's a very nice example how Insane Cement congratulated Langwa Cement working. And that was a huge difference that made in the market with them working together. That's a collaboration. Now, currently, it's a place that I work for. We have a platform where we connect buyers and suppliers together. Now, that is collaboration, giving equal opportunity for every supplier to sell their product to a buyer who wants. So the buyer has a freedom to choose from any supply. So the platform just simply does is connect the demand and supply. So this is what we need to go for. The collaboration is a very important tool, because if somebody is going to think, oh, I'm exposing my products, I'm exposing my pricing, then you are sadly mistaken and you will fail, because you are going to spend so much money trying to find sales, opposed to if you don't get into these collaborative methods. Then embracing the new normal and technology is a subject. It's one of my favorite subjects since I'm also into technology. I will talk about how from the pandemic time, people were pushed to embrace the new normal. People were pushed to embrace technology. I have spoken to over 300 to 400 SMEs in this country, traveling all around the country. And one thing that majority said, who were in the first generation, said, oh, we don't need this. A simple pen and a pencil, a paper is enough for us to do business. We can do our own calculations. If there's a calculator, that is enough. This is the mindset we are in. We are not even using technology to do our simple P&L. And that's how backward our thinking is. But when the pandemic came, we started using WhatsApp for delivery. Now Zoom is like a normal thing. It's like Googling. Did you Zoom today? Did you have a Zoom session today? So that's the new normal. And things like travel with wife on Instagram, Appayama YouTube channel started coming up. People started creating content. And there is an indirect USD market that is creating through this content development, through embracing the new technology and the new norm. Now, on the other hand, it took the government literally 4 months to come up with a simple way of sanctioning fuel. Whereas Aradhana Petrol Shed, a simple entrepreneur, came up with a simple website and a Facebook page to update the availability of fuel in their sheds. And then the same government sector, Vavuniya District Secretariat, who had the vision to get this going, had an app developed even before the government had a central app to sanction the fuel for their people. So in Vavuniya, actually this was happening properly. This is the mindset change and the embracing of technology and the new normal. If we don't change, if this doesn't happen, we are going to die. Sri Lanka is like a dinosaur. We are dying. We are bleeding out and we are dying. And we need to recognize that and we have to take action. Nokia CEO in his last speech said, we didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost when they were sold to Microsoft. But he failed to understand the passive bureaucracy, which led to distractive ways of this adamant ways of thinking, their ego, and failing to understand their customers led them to this. So in Sri Lanka, this is what is happening. If we don't embrace technology, if we don't embrace the digitalization, the SMEs don't adapt to this, we will die. But Dr. Rohantha said he believes there's a God. Sri Lankan is a God, and we believe that. And I think this SME backbone are the gods of this country, and they can definitely contribute a lot more. Then 2 other important points is know your market trends. Now, when you are a SME, knowledge is very important. Facts and data is very important. Today, 12.3% of the population are over 60 years of age. And in 15 years, 1 in 4 will be over 60 years, which is 25% of the population, right? The youth, the millennials in the world are 1.8 billion, which means majority of our business owners are going to be over 60 very soon. So we need a shift in our thinking. We need to adapt to what the millennials are asking for. We need to understand the products and services the millennials need, and the millennials are the ones who are going to represent and take care of the about 60 years of age people. And life expectancy of a normal Sri Lankan is going to be 77 years. And they say 10 years of that life, between 67 to 77 years, will be very health draining period where they need a lot of medical help. So this is the market that you need to understand. We are all getting into. So we need to understand these trends. How do we adapt? to this? How do we change to this? How do we supply to this demand? And one brand that I can think of 25 years ago, amidst so much of criticism, started talking to the millennials. That's Bhatya Santosh. Today, if you ask a 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, or 70-year-old who is Bhatya Santosh BNSs, they all know. They started by rapping Siru Sangapoti. There's a lot of criticism, but today it has become the norm. If you don't rap a song, sing a song, it's like almost it's empty. So this is what we need to know about knowing your market, adapting to these trends and understanding and responding to these things. And finally, understanding your rights. It's so funny, when I was actually researching about SMEs, I couldn't find one definition for SME. The World Bank has one definition. The Central Bank has another definition. The Department of Small Industries has another definition. The financial institutions has their own definitions. So if you don't know who you are, how do you know what you have to do and your purpose? So first of all, there has to be a framework that defines what SME is. Either it is based on number of employees or is it based on the income. Today, if I have a business and I have 2 employees doing a 10 million turnover, am I a micro SME, am I a SME, or am I middle stream? This question. So this is very important, because for the support that the SMEs need, the financial support, the policy decision-making support, all these frameworks will only work if you know what a SME in the first place is. And once you know when you are an SME, then you have the right to ask and demand what is your right. From a bank, you get the right to demand what am I as a business, what am I eligible for, what is my credit line, the legal side of things, how am I covered when I do a business, what are the pros and the cons of my business. Nothing can be defined if you don't know what your right is, and then then you need to define yourself as SME. So in a very short minutes, I wanted to explain something we all know. So we need to keep moving. We shouldn't be stuck in one place and complaining and expecting others to help. We all need to take action, and we need to look at just not this 22 million. We need to look at the 7.9 billion out there and think outside the box, be creative, be innovative, and collaboration through networking, collaboration through working with partners, collaboration through working with stakeholders, and embracing and working with technology, reducing your cost through using technology, understanding the market that you are in, and finally understanding your right. So this is my take into your question, Hashan, on the SMEs.
Wow, it's power is back. Right, Tumi, yeah, I mean, you're perfectly right. You really connected to the, you connected with Dr. Dinesh and Dr. Rohantha on this wide topic that we opened up today for discussion. Amazingly, the role of SMEs is unbelievable. I mean, see, I was looking at a video of our dear friends Yasas Hevage, the spinners. He made his entire family to bike right throughout, and he was saying, don't get bogged down saying that we have heritage and all that, but that era is over, and we've been masked because we've been taking loans after loans, and we were having fun, but now it's over. It's all over, right? And he said it's time to rebuild. So who's going to rebuild? Is entrepreneurs. Businessman sees this, okay, crisis, I'm going to shut down. But entrepreneurs, right, they see the opportunity, they select different markets, and there they go. And they go and market themselves, like the person that you saw on the petrol queue, and like what Mahendra did today. They saw the opportunity, they thought, okay, let's make the maximum out of it. Like Dr. Dinesh said, crisis is a huge opportunity. And so with that, we are going to go for the second round, but before that, I need to remind this live cast comes to you from Sri Lanka Technological Campus in Padukka. It's a live streaming from Padukka campus and connected to the Trace Expert City in Maradana. This is where our city campus is. And our team behind, the IT team, the marketing team, and of course the media circle of SLTC campus is right behind us, supporting for this live cast. And SLTC campus is now is the only research campus in Sri Lanka where we focus on mostly on research and mostly on building entrepreneurs for the nation. And as a business school, as a representative of the business school, yes, of course, we have tagged our motto as that we are going to be the solution provider. So you're with us live from SLTC Insider, and let's see what SLTC has in terms of sports. Yes, as you can play the video. Right, welcome back to SLTC Insider, and we are going to move to the second round of questions with the keynote speaker, Dinesh Hamangoda, Dr. Rohan Korala, and the two panelists, Dr. Dinesh and Pumi, in the forum. There is a question posed, Dr. Dinesh. We are speaking about resilience here. We are speaking about resilience here. How the industry psychology has to be tuned in, because we see right now there's no psychology involved, right? With one particular seat that's also from the national list, and 6 times prime minister, caretaker prime minister, and today the president. But it happened. The country is at stake. The country is still struggling to rise their head up. Like Pumi said, it took months of Sundays to introduce a little QR code. But certain sheds in the village level optimize the opportunity. And there is no queues. But I mean, they really managed the whole thing. But in micro level, it's been managed. But in macro level, there's raids after raids, and the country is in turmoil. And we never dreamt to come to this level. So now we are talking about resilience in this forum. And what is the industry psychology? How it can be tuned in? Dr. Dinesh.
I think, Hashan, that's a very valid, vertical that every corporate should understand. I would say this is corporate psychology or the business psychology that we need to get into. So just ask yourself, any of us, if we lose the element called hope, what's going to happen? If you think there is no hope for you, what's going to happen? That is the most dangerous, psyche that we are going to get in. Let's say we lose the hope of getting the company survive. Let's say the company is not going to survive, it's going to get bankrupt. And there is no country is going to get survive. There is no country for us. For our children, there will be no universities, and everyone is going to, fly and migrate. See, the loss of hope, what's going to happen? Any person who doesn't have a hope, it's just like a dead carcass, I would say. I mean, you're almost dead without hope. So these days we are going through an environment that, we are losing the hope. So each company, each individual, each family, now we are losing the hope. That's some sort of a dangerous area that we are getting to. So as corporate, what sort of initiatives that we can, drive to sort out this issue? Number one, can we, come up with some motivational programs, to fix this mood? Can we come up with some programs internally? I would say some, okay, get into another area like, I would say, this is out of the scope. Zambian president, that's a very recent revival that Zambia went into. The Zambian president clearly mentioned having a sense of shame also giving some motivation. So with the losing of hope, having that sense of what you call shame also will be extremely essential. Now, look at the psyches that we are going through out of the, corporate level. We are almost in queues. Maybe your salespeople out of 4 days or 5 days of work, 3 days they're in petrol queues. So hyperinflation, they can't, survive with their small salaries. So with all these turmoils, look at the psychological condition. Having, being in a queue, let's say more than 24 hours, on the following day going into work and, doing the intellectual work, see the psycho. So as corporate, what are the initiatives that you can come up with? So most of the corporates now, more than giving them some psychological support, they have counseling, they have started, and some are, motivating them to getting into gardening, cycling, yoga, meditation. So most of the companies now do conduct online, I would say, outbound program. So I also went through that program. So some going through meditation, some, psychological programs to fix the psycho. That's number one. And mainly as corporate, MDs, general managers, CEOs, we need to drive that mentality called the growth mindset. Growth mindset, getting into action is, the metaphor is, the best captains will be visible in what, Shashank? In rough seas. So rough sea is an opportunity.
Yeah.
So enjoy the rough sea. So you'll have to promote that psychology inside the company. So being senior managers, if some person is going to, apply for migration, you can, apply this theorem like, if you want to show off in a company, if you want to be visible, this is the best time to show that you are talented, because only talented few will get survived. So if you can go through this, psychological framework in a company and, foster creativity within the company and tell them every opportunity on the opposite side every crisis has an opportunity mindset, we can get people, people who are going out of the mood or out of the hope back to the, basic, psyche in a company. Otherwise, without maintaining the psychology of a office person or a field person, as corporate, we can't win. So this is an extremely important vertical for top management to look in, because they won't come and tell you they're out of, psycho. They are undergoing depression. Your subordinate will not come and tell you, sir, I am under severe depression. So before they get into depression, you will have to make sure your framework within the company is basically set up to mitigate this. So that is my point of view.
Okay, Dr. Rohantha, I hope you're there. You can hear the whole thing. What's your view on this particular matter, on industry psychology?
See, Madang, my view is very simple. What we need is a bias for action. So once we decided that we are going to, we sit as a team around a table and we agree on a set of actions that we're going to do. It doesn't matter whether you're at home, whether you're sitting under a tree, listening on Zoom, whether you're at the gym, it doesn't matter. Just go out there and make it happen. And I think that's simply, I would say, is what is required in the corporate end. Let's not over conceptualize. Let's not try to be so democratic that the whole organization is involved in it. Time has come when you have a little bit of authoritarianism that is required, because otherwise, if you keep asking everybody's view, ultimately you can't get anything done. You need to have that fine balance, but most importantly is go there to make it happen. If something happens which is not going to work, it's a learning which you happen to take, and then readjust your behavior and go and do it. I mean, that's simply what I see of the companies who are successful today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rohant. Piyumi, I mean, turn to you. Since we spoke about this corporate psyche, and Dr. Rohant is saying just do it, just go and do it. As a person who's again connected to SMEs, you think these collaborations with the industry right now is a must to protect the SMEs?
Absolutely, 100%. There is a huge role to be played by all stakeholders, actually. I'll just take one simple example. For SMEs, it's not much like Dr. Rohan said, it's about taking actions. You don't have time to think. You don't have time to waste, because tomorrow you might not have a place to stay or food to eat. So you have to keep going. It's firefighting situation for survival. And in this context, right, of all the corporate sector, the public sector, the banking sector, all these stakeholders have to work together. One simple example, I'll take the banking financial sector because I've been in it as well. Now, again, I'm going to go back to the data. 70% of the businesses, SMEs, of all the businesses, 70% are SMEs, which contributes 52% to the GDP of this country, right? But the lending portfolio, right, in financial institutes for SMEs, only 19% of their total lending portfolio. At a sector that contributes 52%, there's only 19% financial backing and support. Now, this gap speaks volumes, right? The gap of this gap in 2017 was 13.7 billion in the gap. Why the gap is there is, one is because there is not enough financial education. The collateral is not big enough from what the financial institute wants. The lack of managerial skills, exposure to new things. So many things are there. Now, simple thing like the financial institutes can support in this for SME survival is changing their policies. Now, if you take a startup, if you take a young person who is 18 years of age, wants to do a business, first of all, they don't have assets. So how are you going to get support from a financial institute to start a business? Today, assets are not only the physical fixed assets. Today, data is an asset. In fact, data is the biggest commodity in this world at the moment. Data is trending. Today, the Airbnbs of the world, the WhatsApps of the world, the Facebooks of the world don't have assets. It's data. It's what they are valued on. The value of the business is based on data, transaction, data points, and the growth potential. So, I think for one example for me is that financial institutions, policymakers, decision makers needs to support by changing these policies to survive. Today, to talk about this jackfruit example, Dr. Rohanta, I don't know whether you had this information when you were there. I called the export EDB to get simple data about how many the quantity of exports or the value of exports of jackfruits in Sri Lanka. And they said, I have to write to customs. So, and when I called customs, they said they don't have anything like that, that information with EDB. So I ended up calling here, and then I gave up the idea of finding information. So lack of data for a simple SME to decide whether to take this business up or not, even is not available. So collaboration between the government to public sector to banks to all of these institutions is extremely imperative for the SMEs to survive.
Right.
Actually,
Yeah.
Hashan, if I may add something,
Yeah, please. Yeah.
the most important skill right now is just very simply your network. I mean, if you have your network going right now, you can have your fuel, you can have your data from whatever sources, you can bring down containers because there's a shortage of containers. You want dollars. I'll tell you guys, anything can be done if you have your network. I mean, I don't know whether you will believe me, but I have never ever stayed in the line in the petrol queue. I mean, I never used any influence. I don't like influence. It's only network. Anything can be done. You want dollars? You want dollars? Network can give you. You want the fuel? You can get. You want data? You want containers? Guys, I'm telling you, I did it. There are, I mean, one of the companies that I work for, we suddenly found that there are no containers. And then we found that if you're going to bring it down UAE, it's going to cost you $10,000 extra. Okay. I mean, you just go back to your MBA, or I mean, I reached out to my friends who are at Harvard, and I got through to a minister in UAE. And the next thing is I got my container going. I didn't have to pay any money also. So believe me, guys, it's very sad, but it should not be between the haves and have-nots. Today is not the money that you have in your bank. It's a network that you have. Sorry, thanks.
Yeah, Dr. Ant, there's a question being posed to you. Let me take that question right now. How do you compare China being #1 in tea compared to Sri Lanka? Specifically, in short, what did China do which Sri Lanka did not do? So what can Sri Lanka do to change this? This is from Indika posing a question to you. It is on your chat.
Oh, is it for me? You want me to answer?
For you. Yeah, it's straight to you.
I don't want to compare. You know, there is no comparisons that are required right now. What is important is for us to understand who is our target consumer, what do they want, and then based on what they want, we need to ask ourselves how you fashion ourselves to be competitive. That's it, guys. Business is very basic right now. For example, if you're exporting tea to Australia, there's no point going to Australia and telling people, Ceylon tea, please buy Ceylon tea, buy single origin tea. You know what do you mean by single origin tea is that we don't have mixing, we don't do mixing, right? No point, because that Australian consumer is not interested about Ceylon tea. He's not going to retail outlet and say, "Mata denna Ceylon tea." Now it doesn't work like that. You don't go to a retail outlet and say, "I have a single origin tea." You don't even go to a Sri Lankan outlet in Australia and ask for single origin tea. But what you will see is what is the brand. You might look at the quality of the tea and the variant. Is it a peppermint flavor or strawberry flavored? So to me, I don't want to compare myself with China or with any other part of the world. I would be more interested about asking myself, have I understood my market out there? And I'm telling you with a lot of responsibility, a big brand of ours, which had 28% market share at one time, came down to 22% share, right? And then it had to be relaunched. And when it had to be relaunched, I mean, I work for AI company, so I did an artificial intelligence track using any data which is on the net. And we just looked at what are the category drivers, what are the brand drivers, and we realized that the brand drivers of this particular organization didn't link up to the category drivers. So category drivers are people are looking for flavor, they look at for the brand, and they're looking at the quality. That's it. Nobody's going to ask about whether it's Ceylon tea or single origin tea. So I would say I would go on that platform. Secondly, is that is from the demand side. But then from the supply side, I need to ask myself, what has happened to my tea? Because right now there's a 30% reduction on all tea exports. Okay, sorry, tea production. Now why is that? Because there was no fertilizer. So I'll be more interested about asking myself, can I get my fertilizer back on track? How do I manure my my tea fields and make sure that there is a cyclical impact so that I can get back my teas into 300 million kilograms of tea. Now, why am I talking about this? See, guys, global demand for tea is something like 2.8 trillion metric tons of tea for a year. I mean, that's a kind of number, right? And we produce 300 milligrams, 300 kilograms of tea. It's nothing, guys, nothing, you know. So let's not worry about the people who are having 40%, 30% market share, which are the Chinas and the Indias of the world, when we have just like 1%, you know, or 0.5%, you know. So I prefer to focus on my company. How do I get closer to the consumer? Look at what the competitor is doing, like the Naradas and the Tesla, the Riptons of the world in those markets, and see how I can be competitive. Same goes with tourism, Hashan. You know, everybody says, you know, let us compare ourselves with Maldives and let us compare ourselves. Guys, don't do that. I mean, I work in Maldives tourism also. Their product is different. Their target markets are different. The way they position their brands are different. The consumer that comes to us is different. I mean, currently our market share of global tourism is 0.04%. Understood, right? I mean, you know, who goes to Kenya and Seychelles and Maldives? We should just go to England and make sure that they understand our product portfolio from that data I showed you. And if we can get from 200,000 tourists to 400,000 tourists, I mean, guys, let's just focus on 400,000 tourists. Let's not worry what, you know, the guy in, you know, Ethiopia is doing. I mean, there's nothing you and I can do with that guy, you know. Thank you. Thanks, Intikam, for your question.
Right. Okay. With that, I'm going to move to Dr. Rohantha explained about Croatia, how they revived. Dr. Dinesh, I mean, we only heard about Croatia so far of a revival strategy of saying Croatia can, and they really got hold of that hexagon and they corrected the governance, and like what Dr. Rohantha explained. Can we have some examples of countries that has revived after a kind of a catastrophe like this nature?
I think, to my knowledge, Hashan, that's a very good, question to analyze, because number one example comes to my mind is how India revived in, I would say, 1991 under the government of at that time the Prime Minister was Narasimha Rao. The Minister of Finance was, I think, Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Correct. The famous revival.
Famous revival. I think if you go through that case study, Hashan, exactly what Sri Lanka needs at the moment, exactly, if you can cut and paste, that's it. As far as I can remember, there was a committee called Narasimha, or the Narasimha, committee, comprised of so many professionals in different sectors, and how on a gradual order, how in a very shorter period of time, similar, there was huge debt. I mean, they default some sovereign bonds. To my knowledge, they depleted all their foreign reserves, and inflation was skyrocketing. And all the symptoms right now we are going through, they went through. So similar template. I mean, a committee of professionals coming into one this thing. Forget about political, agenda. Forget about political appointments. Merely forget about political, flavor in the equation. How they, got India back into action. I think still they believe 1991 revival, 30 years before, still driving the India's economic growth. So that's number one. Second thing, Ashan, I think it was case study. A similar thing happened to Zambia. And after the Zambian new president took over, similar sovereign bond default, similar inflation. So how Zambia, revive is another case study. So other popular case studies are, as you know, how Japan the mic is on. The microphone. Yeah. Another case study is how Japan how they came into this nationalistic mindset, patriotic mindset. They were willing to sacrifice their personal lives, maybe sacrificing their salaries, and highly disciplined sort of a sacrification that they did. How to get into revive. Another case study I remember, it's Ethiopia. Ethiopia had been, colloquially we were saying just like Korea or Ethiopia. I think if you get into Ethiopian numbers, now they started growing, they started getting wheat flour from USA. I think I heard now at the moment they are self-sufficient of wheat flour. They can export wheat flour. I think how agriculture was, getting into the mainframe, into the economy, how Ethiopia grew, and how Bangladesh made sure that their country was fully open for other, investor to come and invest. I think in terms of foreign reserves, COVID, it was a great, comparison. How Bangladesh, grew reserves, how we depleted our reserves. Another example was, Vietnam. After the, that particular famous war, how they came from this, whole socialistic mindset to, capitalistic mindset, how they drove into that. So South Korea was another example, how they made innovation, technology, and, economic growth was, key drivers of the economy. Harshan, more than, I would say, countries, some famous case studies of revival of famous companies, blue chip companies like Apple. Sometimes like Apple was almost getting into this thing. Chrysler, then General Motors, Nokia, and some, people like, Best Buy. They were almost crashed, and how they, came back to the normal growth was a great example to motivate, as general managers, we need to preach these things to our subordinates. Even though we feel like, some companies are about to get bankrupt, there are so many innovative ways to, get back to the normalcy. So those were the few things that I wanted to, came to my mind as best example.
Doctor, now somewhere in the before 1977, I would say, we were not here. We were not in this whole landscape, right? And we were really managing issues with regards to socialist uprising and the youth uprising and all that. We were
Ashan,
managing it. Yeah.
sorry, Ashan, if I may just add something to what Dinesh was saying.
Sure.
See, he talked about India. One of the most important thing in India is that they allow the bureaucrats to run the country. The politicians can come, they can talk about policy and all that kind of thing. But the bureaucrats, the IS officers, Dinesh knows this because he has worked for multinationals, no one can shake them. If any politician tries to play around with a IS officer, I mean, you're gone, guys. You're gone. I mean, your history, And so if you ask me what is the success model of 1991, is when Manmohan Singh came down, he made sure that the bureaucratic structure was done, and he made sure that they listened to economists. You don't go and preach to economists how to run a country. So we have to learn this small thing, from India. Even today, how many of us have an economist on our board? See, guys, we need to have an economist. I mean, that guy is skilled. He understands the macro fundamentals much more than you and I. So we have to respect that. And if that respect is understood, it has to be done. So I don't know. I have never heard the Nishan Dimels, the Anushka Vijay Singers, maybe IPS head, advocate ahead. I have not seen any of these people appointed for any kind of boards in the last 2-3 weeks. So these guys must get on boards. They must be sitting on central bank kind of a thing. One reason why the previous government went crazy is because they never understood what the academia said. 32 professors from Peradeniya went and said, don't follow the agricultural policy. What did they do? Threw those guys out of the system. I will show you how we are going to make this organic. Guys, if you adopt the global organic market in the world, if Sri Lanka produces everything organic, right, we can only meet up to 15% of that requirement, which means that the market is smaller than Sri Lanka. I mean, these are fundamentals. And this guy defied everything, went to Scotland and made a presentation in Scotland that Sri Lanka is going to be the first organic country. I mean, what kind of arrogance and what kind of backbone does the policy, the bureaucrats have? I mean, bureaucrats should talk, no? And I would blame the private sector. The agricultural companies which are driving the private sector should have gone and tell guys, stop this shit, man. I'm the one who gives employment. I'm the one who brings money to this country. Stop all this nonsense. That way I really have a lot of respect for the tea industry. That guy, the chairman of the Planters Association, Roshan Rajadore, he wrote an article to the papers in the Daily Mirror. And the secretary of the Ministry of Plantations took that article and went and met him and said, look at what the private sector is saying. And that is what actually skewed the whole relationship a little bit towards saying, guys, okay, I take that policy away. But other than that, I mean, in Sri Lanka, nobody fights to do the right thing. No. So my answer, the simple point to add to what Dinesh was saying is that we have to get our public sector strong. And that was one thing which we saw with the Indian 1991 collapse. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rohant. I was about to ask from Dr. Dinesh, I mean, you gave a kind of a preamble to that, Doctor. We were fully focused. I mean, we are fully okay with up to 1977. I mean, if you look at from the time of independence to 1976, we had some uprisings, we have various uprisings, but the country was really stable. There was no issue. But suddenly, from an agro-based economy, I raised this question in many forums to get a proper idea as to where we went wrong, and famous revival of India, Zambia, like you endorsed, Dr. Dinesh, Ethiopia, Japan, Vietnam, and Korea. I mean, people never looked at Korea. Now they are trying to go and get employed in Korea. Said Korea is the worst country in the world. But what happened to us? From 1977 to 2022, there's something happened. We all of a sudden moved out from the agro-based economy, and we moved up to apparels. We went behind human labor. We changed the whole platform by assuming. I think they assumed that country will grow. And when I was schooling, it's third world country. When everyone was schooling, it's third world country. When my mother was schooling, it was a third world country. We never developed. And we have a tagline called the Wonder of Asia now. So, Dr. Dinesh, I mean, now we are talking about Sri Lanka Can. Yes, every time when there's a crisis, like I said at the beginning, we are famous to bounce back, but we couldn't retain. Right. My additional question to you, Dr. Dinesh, is where we went wrong and how we are going to correct it. I mean, let bureaucrats run the whole business. Like Dr. Rohanta said, they never listen to academia with regards to this agro turnaround. But why? I mean, why this whole jazz when we have a beautiful chance to revive? And what happened? Where we went wrong? And what's next? It's an additional question to you.
Yeah, my proposal is stemming from what the framework that Dr. Rohanta also said. So can we come up with a framework, strategy? There should be, let's say, maybe 5-year or 10-year national strategy should be there for each and every sector. Maybe the education, maybe the plantation, maybe the sector. There should be at least 5 to 10-year strategic plan, which is not going to get disturbed when the politicians are, government to government. That's number one. So that's the main philosophy, how we can get the whole philosophy, getting into action. So my proposal is, can we have a steering committee or a strategic committee for each and every sector in this? Let's say we have 20 such sectors, maybe plantation, education, stuff like that. Get set of professional, qualified, talented, I would say not 100% academic, people who have proven themselves in their respective industries. Just like that, Dr. Rohanta was telling, an expert who have proven himself in tea industry. So he or such people can be coming from the industry, who have, who have immense experience in that industry. And another set from can come from the academia. People who can come up with theories, who can, formulate long-term strategies, who can think and write, sort of. With such people, can we have some sort of permanent bodies along with working with the respective governments? So when the government changes, as Dr. Rohanta said, the bureaucrats can't be touched by the politician, but politician has to, if politician want to survive for the next election, he has to continue that strategy who has been formulated by the first committee, and who has to support. The politician should, country should have a framework that politician should essentially support this professional. Otherwise, that particular strategy, let's say you're the education minister, without helping that committee to run that strategy, there won't be any sort of an education progress in the country. So till we come up with that, long-term framework, hope this crisis, we can make it an oasis. If, new government, hopefully, if they can come up with multi-party government or whatever the government that they plan to come up with, they can set up such committees. I think that is my proposal to the government. One and only way of having a long-term sustainable strategy, at least in few years' time, we know what we are heading, at least. And that set of professionals and academics will be responsible. They'll take the accountability. If something happens now, can you go to the politician and are they accountable for this? No, they would say, okay, this is because of the previous minister. The previous minister would say, this is because of the, the first minister. The chairman of, Environment Authority would say, because of the previous chairman, this happened, which happened to Litro. So if you have this framework, there is a set of official people that who can account for. That is the one and only solution, according to me.
Right, Pumi, I mean, major income lines, we discussed about major income lines, tourism, the corporate sector survival framework, and the role of the SME sectors we considered as the main growth lines. And Dr. Dinesh was also seriously elaborating on the corporate sector influence and the frameworks. And Dr. Rohanta is saying just go and do it and let bureaucrats run the whole thing, and academia comes into whole thing. So now we are coming into a little plan kind of a thing, So we see what the panel is trying to put through, right? It's like take action, says SLTC Insiders. That's what three of you are trying to establish. But when it comes to you, the growth engines will not change. So our lines will not change. But will you reckon on the collaborative framework of a future plan for SMEs? I'm reassuring that collaborations, when we speak about collaborations, right? What kind of collaborations? I mean, we can go on month of Sundays and talking about this thing, but we need to be very specific. Collaboration on what end? Who's going to collaborate with SMEs? Who's going to collaborate with the entrepreneurs? What's your view?
Good, really good question. So, Hashan, funnily, when you're talking about this and all of this happening, something really simple came to my mind. I'm going to take a little bit time to explain this. The recently concluded Nadagam Karyo, the teledrama, with a huge view. Now, what is happening in Sri Lanka sums up in that teledrama quite beautifully and ends also exactly in the same way, right? So, three losers Sarah as a main character, who was a loser, was a nobody, with the help of the Hamuduru or guidance, right? Now, all these people, all of them represent different sectors of different things in this country. Hamuduru who helps. Characterized, yes. Hamuduru helps, and they take the advice, they take the financial support given to them, and then the government fails, nobody helps, and they go asking for help, and then another collaboration happens with another government official who comes, that lady helps them, they take the business to the next level, and then the ego and everything else comes into play, the politicians comes into play, they don't allow the business to sustain, they destroy the business, and they finally, there's fire, there's nothing in the business left, and it's zero. So it's everything that is happening in this country that is going wrong is actually pretty epically defined, and I think everybody can relate to that. Now, the beauty of that is that how it ends also, irrespective of that, how the three boys said, okay, this is the new chapter. Okay, do we give up or what do we do? So they decide and they put the first step again, we are going to restart, we are going to rebuild. Right? And they're going to do it better because they know now what went wrong. So now, taking from that to answer your question, right? The collaborative framework, SMEs on their own cannot do this on their own. They will not sustain. It's an uphill battle for them. Right? Now, taking from what Dr. Dinesh said and what Dr. Rohanta keeps on saying, it's just very simple. Let's do it. It's like how Nike says it. Just do it. There's no thinking, just do it. So taking from that and picking from what Dr. Dinesh said, I think the SME needs a long-term sustainable plan in action, right? Our president yesterday at Parliament said 100 years to celebrating independence, 100 years in 2048 will be a completely developed country. Now, if that statement is to be made true, we can't have politicians coming and changing policies time to time because the color changed or the person changed. We have to have a framework in place that is long-term, sustainable, and independent to politics. Run by, very correctly said, economics, industry leaders, and people who know what they're talking about. So SMEs need that support. They fail to get financial support sometimes because their financial intelligence is lacking. There are independent bodies like USAID who are funding these kind of projects, upskilling the SMEs. Now, some of them don't know even about these projects that are happening in the country. Now bodies like this needs to get together. So like Dr. Dinesh said, maybe there can be a couple of industries that we can pick, and we pick industry leaders who will be appointed for a period of time, who will give the leadership to these SMEs. Right? And give them the vision, the drive, the knowledge, the exposure, the know-how, and have a plan with objectives and methodology to evaluate the performance and correct it as we go along, and adjust it and readjust it and reevaluate it and put it in action. So if we are to come to this developed status in 100 years of independence celebration, we can't rely on just politics alone. Politics have to get out. They have to do the policy decision, and the industry leaders together has to work together. So the Mahesh Amalin that Dr. Rohan Thatakal mentioned, the Ashraf Omans, the tea industry leaders, rubber industry leaders, even the youth of this country, the millennials who knows what digitalization is, who knows who has a vision, who are extremely eloquent and knows what they're talking about, should be part of these frames. They should be part of these leadership programs guiding the SME. So my framework for this, I think, is that we should have, in simple, the slogan, just do it. And with the support of industry know-how leaders leading them in a very long-term 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year plan. And that should not change subject to any party changes, color changes, or anything. That's my take on it.
Right. Pumi, I mean, collaborations, I'm coming back again, you're spot on, but I think Dr. Dinesh and Dr. Rohant also agrees that, see, SME to develop, if you use the metaphor Nadagam Karo teledrama, in that Laku Hamadru was being showcased as a metaphor as the financer. So he gives a loan and he says, I don't want it back. Right? So he's kind of he is not act as a bank, but he act as a device or a kind of what you said, like USAID or someone says, okay, you keep this, right, and grow. And how he gives is also, he first tasks them. He first tasks them saying, collect all these coconut shells or the husks. And then these 4 guys were like shocked why he's saying it. Then he says, keep it with you. So they come to their little hut and say, why we should keep coconut husks? What is this guy is doing? And it shows how he trained these guys. And then he says, look, keep this 50,000 and try to start a business. Then these guys get motivated. They collect all the husks and they have a lorry coming into the village and they start selling it. But the 50,000 kept aside. And then he was asked to keep records, checks and balances. So slowly, the guys who were having this illicit liquor trade and doing all sorts of wrong things in the village is now turned to be little SMEs. So this metaphor of giving these guys a chance, right? I'm pretty sure, Piyumi, banks will never do this. I'm not degrading banks, but if a SME goes to a bank, the first question is that where's your business plan? Where's your assets? Can we trade? Right? Can you mortgage? So if a SME has anything to mortgage, why he should go to a bank? Now, this is where my question is. To revive an SME, the collaborations from the corporate sector, collaboration from the private sector, from the public sector, from the banking sector, from the finance sector, from the lending sector, from NGOs, isn't it vital? Dr. Dinesh, Dr. Rohant, I mean, isn't it vital? All these guys collaborate.
Just to add to that, Hashan, this what you mentioned, this one person starting a business, it's a journey. So the banking sector, policy decision makers have to understand the journey the business goes through, from starting as a micro business to SME to a medium scale to a large organization. So if the policymakers and all these relevant bodies don't understand this journey of a business and they don't support this journey, if they are looking at just individual business only, we will fail. But we need to start looking at the bigger picture. This is why some banks have also started value addition sales, like giving ERP solutions to businesses, getting motivating the businesses to getting into digital platforms. This is a good start. This is an absolutely good start supporting the SME. So like you correctly said, just to add to that, I want to mention this journey of a business. Everybody, we have heard so many stories of how large conglomerates started very small. So, and they with a little bit of support. So this journey should be understood in this collaborations when these stakeholders are actually collaborating together.
Dr. Dinesh, what will be our role in this march to excellence, or in this march that we say that Sri Lanka Can? What will be our role?
Yeah, as individuals, we spoke a lot about corporate. What is the role of a corporate? As individuals, you and me, our role will be, spreading the positivity in family level, in company level, in social level. Can we spread the positivity and make sure people are very positive? Second thing is, as teachers, we can easily spread that. And another level is, as professionals, as academics, all of us can be pressure groups. Individually can be, individual people who can pressure the government. As a group, as we said, collaboratively, each of us can we lobby, can we pressure the decision makers in our levels. You organizing this seminar or the webinar is, giving some pressure to some authority.
Absolutely.
So you have done your part. Ask yourself, ask ourselves, have I done your part? According to Stephen Covey, we have this circle of not concern, circle of influence. If you take your garden, maybe 10 perches, have you grown some vegetables on your own? Have you done some, organic fertilizer? Have you fixed some, solar panels on your own? And ethically, not to buy petrol from the, let's say from the black market. Try to reduce number of imported products that you are using. Have we done our part from our end? That means everybody will be, satisfied. I mean, so if everyone does his part, I mean, 50% of the problem is solved.
Yeah, add to that, doctor. I mean, okay, have I done my part? Well, when this fuel issue started up, I was watching the whole thing when I see my wife get panicked and daughter is getting frustrated. I thought, okay, there's another way to do this. Now, we have to drop her to school in the morning and to pick up. So this luxury life that we were been having suddenly been questioned. That's how I looked at it. So I said, look, there are alternatives. There are zillions of school buses, and it's fun to go in a school bus. So I managed to convince. Okay,
Correct.
now she is
So
in us.
I think once I spoke to you the other day, you were riding a bicycle to meeting. So that's why you couldn't answer the phone. So
Yeah.
you have done your part. Can
Yeah.
we use, I mean, at least 50% private transport?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll have to do our part.
Absolutely. If Yasas can come to meetings in bank in a bicycle, in a mountain bike. So I said, okay, you go in a school bus. Then wife said, school bus is corona and all. I said, no. So let's face it. Fortune favors the brave. I said, I'll go to the campus in my mountain bike because it's just lying there. And we figured out, and if you calculate the amount of savings for these 2 months we have made and the amount of releasement of pressure, well, everyone is happy. Well, of course, we need to safeguard ourselves with regards to security. And well, a bicycle helmet is now about 10,500, and it is so expensive. That's the most expensive helmet so far. Doctor, yes, if I can do it, if you can do it, if Piyumi can do it, if Dr. Rohanda can do it, right? So our role will be is that we need to contribute what we can. Yes, like you said, this is kind of a pressure piece that we are making from SLTC. And right now, we have people working behind entrepreneurships, promoting entrepreneurships, and creating practical entrepreneurs. I think people who are in the audience will endorse that, because we have Dr. Damit Gangodavila in the audience who's mastering that. And we have recently created innovation center to take kids to innovations from O levels to A levels. So as a campus, yes, we are gearing up. We are trying to get this transformation done, and now I'm pretty sure all the other universities in Sri Lanka is now promoting this whole thing, because that's what academia is all about, and they are playing their part. But my question is that, like you said, well, it's well answered by you, Dr. Dinesh. I mean, how can we roll this march forward? And we have a totally new Sri Lanka, but it was there up to 1976. The bicycles, the Kehel Kole Batteka, the easy way of walking from one town to the other. We never felt tired. But suddenly a change happened. Now again we are coming back. It's a ground zero to start. Like many says that zero start is always good, and like you always says, the catapult effect. That's what I learned from you. The catapult effect. Sometimes you need to go back. You need to move back, and then when you come out absolutely brilliant.
Like
right?
Chinese
So now absolutely. I was about to mention it. You came out with it. Piyumi, SME evolution methodology. How do you look at it, finally?
So, sorry. So SME methodology for me, the evolution, how I look at it is basically, simply put, the mindset change that is required by every single one of us. Like you said, we have to play our part, whether it's carpooling, walking, or whatever it is. So we need to, for all of this to happen, there is an attitude shift, a growth mindset that, like Dr. Dinesh said, shift in the, now we are talking about this Aragale to everything is talking about system change. The system change has to happen within us individually as well. Right? And the SMEs has to do this as well. So we have to demand ourselves to change with the system and to evolve with the system. The government has to endorse and support this methodology of evolving. And for all of this to happen, in very simply put, growth mindset, change of attitude, and just do it.
All right. Okay. We are coming to you live, SLTC Insider. We have reached the final stages of this brilliant piece of discussion. I mean, our first SLTC Insider, I had the what do you call the privilege to moderate, and I had a 2.5 hours of pretty lessons on taxations, and it's a masterpiece that if an MBA students get hold of it or a PhD students get hold of it, well, he has all the lessons in the world on taxation, the new methodologies, proposals, and today, second SLTC Inside is even great that we have eminent panelists and a keynote speaker speaking about Sri Lanka Can. Viewers, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to you live from Padukka. We are Sri Lanka Technology Campus, SLTC Research University, whose much focus on research and building students for the future. This is SLTC Insider. Let's look at finally what SLTC is all about again. Yes, sir.
Do you dream of studying at a world-class university with an exciting and adventurous life experience? That is what awaits you at SLTC in the Paradise Island of Sri Lanka. Located in the lush suburbs of the city, a 35-acre university of serene greenery, the only state-owned, private sector and corporate-backed university in Sri Lanka. With state-of-the-art accommodation options, feel the warmth of a home away from home. Immerse in the adventure you're looking for at the world's top tourist destination of excitement, beauty, and the hub of activity, Sri Lanka. With exceptional teaching, a multitude of study options, plenty of pathways to choose from, a host of international affiliations to back them up, as well as the opportunity to explore your creativity, sports, gym facilities, and natural surroundings. Step into an experience of a lifetime, connecting with the best of the best. Welcome to your Lifetime Experience University.
That's our campus, SLTC Sri Lanka Technological Campus. Yeah. So we are come to the end of the whole piece of SLTC Insider episode number 2. Final questions to the 3 eminent members. Is Sri Lanka Can?
Of course.
Absolutely.
So how do you going to sum up? What's your advice to the Sri Lankan government or the people who are watching this piece over and over again? We'll start with Dr. Rohantha.
Yes, the answer to your question about can Sri Lanka, what do you say, Sri Lanka can? I mean, there is no option, no, Hashan. I mean, when your inflation is at 90% and you 40% of your population is in poverty in the next 3-4 months. I mean, there's no question saying can no. It's like in your company, 40% of the people are redundant and you can't live. So what do you do? Either you have to improve your revenue or close the company down. Now that's point one. Point number two is that please understand there's some disturbance, Hashan. Yeah. See, the second thing you have to understand is that there are 61 countries who are following us, by the way. Yeah. So we were just first in the pack. Maldives is there, Pakistan is there, Turkey is there. Likewise, you have all the countries just piling up. One by one, it's going to fall on the ground. Understood? So we are lucky that we are first and we are reaching out to IMF and quickly getting this money out and then stabilizing ourselves. So we are first of the pack. Every country is going through this. I mean, Germany is having a blackout right now because their power has gone up by 300% because of the Ukrainian war. The third point I like to tell you is that the whole this is what nobody knows yet, and actually everybody knows, but I suppose there are quarters who know, but they're not talking about it. Is there's a huge recession hitting. Already, US is in a recession, 2 quarters minus growth. Europe is also going to come in there, and two of our key markets for our exports is Europe and US. So in this backdrop, there's nothing called Sri Lanka can. Sri Lanka has to do it. You know what I'm saying? But the last point I like to make is, guys, we don't need bloody plans and plans and plans. Sri Lanka Tea Board has 63 marketing plans. If you talk to Sri Lanka Tourism, they also have about 50, 60 marketing plans. If you look at Maldives Tourism, it has only 6 plans for the last 35 years. So that, when a person is recruited and given a job, 8 years, they make mistakes, they grow with the job, they enjoy the job, and they learn from it, and they move on to the next job. You know what I'm saying? So even if Sri Lanka implements the 1960 economic plan, we'll have a 7% GDP growth. Thank you.
Right, Dr. Dinesh, your final remarks.
Yeah, Hashan, my simple request from the politicians is, we need politicians to make sure and to offer the so-called political stability. Please give us that. We don't need anything. So it was nicely articulated by the, newly appointed central bank governor. We need the so-called political stability. Managing PR, go to villages and go to funeral houses and, manage people and have a bet on the, back and, make sure people are happy. Give that stability and hand the country over to professionals and academics who have proven themselves. So make sure that happens. I mean, other than that, we don't expect anything from the politicians. I mean, we can feed them, we can give them Pajeros, intercoolers and whatever, the so-called securities and the escorts, we'll give it everything. Make sure you don't intervene to the professional bodies. Let the professional or the so-called bureaucrats run the country. So we'll give them all the, luxuries they need. So that's what we expect from the politicians. That's from me.
Brilliant. Piyumi, your view?
Since Dr. Rohantha and Dr. Dinesh has addressed the policies and the government, I'm going to address a different crowd in a different way. Since there are students also listening here, we need to go back to basics. Like Buddha mentioned, he has preached about expenses, how to spend money, ways to spend money, what proportions to spend money, first save, emergency, your backup for medicines, and then only you spend the balance. So we all have to go back to basics, do our P&L, look at where we can cut costs as individuals. This is our contribution to this country. All of us simply switching off a light that is not needed is contributing to the economy. Simply switching off a tap and not wasting water is contributing. So we have to all individually play our part, and we have to go to basics. So I think my message to all of us is that we be the citizens, the responsible citizens, and take action. That's my message.
All right, and let me take this opportunity to thank Dr. Deshamani, Dr. Rohan Datsakural of giving the brilliant keynote stepping stone address to this to light up the entire Insider episode number 2, and also Dr. Dinesh, your insights, your plans, your suggestions, the entire list will be documented soon within the next week to a policy paper, as we also as a part of Insider's what you call post-webinar activities. Thank you, Dr. Dinesh, of giving us your valuable time, almost 3 hours, and on behalf of SLTC campus, I thank you for that valuable time that might not go waste, because we have to meet again for the podcast and also the presentation to these for various authorities like we discussed. Piumi, thank you so much, having a huge workload and sacrificing your 3 hours to 4 hours with us. I know controlling a backend is not easy with regards to supply chain, marketing, sales, and particularly the area that you are in. So thank you very much on behalf of the campus. I say thank you again. And why I took your personal addresses is to launch a surprise for you. So it's on the way. When you received it, you'll see it, what the surprise is all about. So from us, from SLTC Research University, this is SLTC Insider, and I'm your moderator, lecturer at SLTC, Hashan Habatantri, saying good night, God bless you, and live in the dream, Sri Lanka can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Good
Bye.
night.